right. Good morning, Southern California. Good evening, Switzerland. Good whatever, anywhere in the world. Welcome to our first Opportunity MeetUp 2024. I am super thrilled and excited about being here in Pomona again at CalPoly, and here is why. I mean, especially the folks, the audience that have come in person. Did you see the scenery out there? I mean, mountains covered in snow, beautiful farmland, and sunshine from east to west. I mean, it couldn't be any better, and it reminds me a lot about my hometown in Switzerland, right? Which is, farmland and mountains with snow. So very happy to be here. Thank you, CalPoly and team, to have us again, the second time, for this Agri and Food Tech Opportunity Meetup. Now, quickly about why are we doing this here? So my name is Matt Hauser. I'm the chairman of the Swiss American Chamber of Commerce, Southern California. And we are focusing on advocating and enabling Swiss companies setting base, enhance, grow, and evolve in Southern California and at the West Coast in general. We do this by really focusing on new technology areas. So our signature competence evolves around food and agri-tech, clean tech, health tech, new space. And why are we doing that? Because the correlation in regards to IP, growth capital, talent, innovation between Switzerland and Southern California is even more than just one. So we see for both of these ecosystems a tremendous growth opportunity to enhance their existing relationships and their existing business, but also even further grow within new areas of collaboration. So if you out there or in here are really interested to participate in this area of doing business around or within the Swiss-American corridor and participate in those opportunities for growth for your business, please join us here either on site in an event or follow us on either LinkedIn or visit us on www.wsaccla.org and be in touch with us. So having said that, I want to hand over to my colleague Markus Bohi, board member and in charge for Food and AgriTech, to take it from here. So thank you very much for setting this up, and stage is yours.
Good morning. Like Matt says, I'm Markus Bohi. I'm in charge of the Food and Agri-Tech domain of the Swiss American Chamber of Commerce. Good morning also to the folks online and of course Helen. Thank you very much for participating and the whole panel here. We are super excited. Like Matt said, it's a beautiful place. I'm an alumni here. I studied here in the 80s, so it's especially special for me to come back here every year. This is the second time we have our Food and Agri-Tech Opportunity Meetup here in CalPoly. And thank you so much to Peter and his team for not only helping me organize it, but the venue and all the technical support and all that. It wouldn't work without it. So anyways, today we're going to talk about the application of AI, robotics, and other emerging technology in agriculture and food technology systems. And for that, we have chosen the panel that we have, which you will meet in the next few minutes. But first, I'm going to introduce Dr. Wahid Hosseini. He will be the first. He started his after studying at the ETH University in Zurich, he started his company Hatchless here locally. and he's going to do a little pitch about his company. And then next after him will be Helen Ivan, who is also a graduate of ETH in Zurich and the co-founder of a company in Switzerland, Digitsoil. So please, I would like to welcome Wahid to make his presentation. Thank you.
Thank you, Marcus, for a nice introduction. And then thank you, Amcham, to give me the opportunity to. Okay, I'm repeating. Thank you, Marcus, for a nice introduction and nice words, and thank you, Amcham, for having me here. Yes, I graduated from ETH. I moved here in California 4 or 5 years ago, and now I started my own company. Do you see my screen already shared? Yep, thank you. And the company that I'm working right now is Agri and Food Tech, combine both and called hatchless small poultry farming. Actually, for millennia, we have grown our meat just in traditional way, growing and killing animals. And with the increasing population, we're already stretching natural resource for meat production. And therefore, we need a new, more sustainable way to do that. And just quickly, current animal farming has some immense challenge that we know. One of those is animal cruelty. The other actually is environmental impact. We know that animal agriculture is responsible for 40% of carbon emission, industrial carbon emission. And of course, biological threat that come from intense animal farming, like as all zoonotic disease and antibiotic use and antibiotic resistant bugs that evolving during this animal farming. That's why people come with the idea that they use non-animal meat alternative that we have as a plant or fungi to address this challenge. Yes, they can do, but they now face new challenges, like as the lack of the taste of animal meat. We call it taste parity, or they're really not in a nutritional way in the same way of animal meat has. We know that essential amino acid is missing from plant-based proteins, or fungi. We don't have macronutrient in there, and typically labeled as a highly processed food. And also they compete with animal farming, and we see that this competition actually not good. They really try to get out of business animal farming. Recently, last few years, we also heard about the cultivated meat, that people trying to grow cells of animal outside of the body. And they try to address the taste, nutrition, and all those things again. But they're currently faces immense another challenge. They're not scalable, their method, and they have a cost challenge. High cost, scalability of inputs, and they really cannot produce in a way that we should do at a larger scale. And my company Hatches trying to address these challenges and offers no-kill poultry meat at the current stage at price parity. How we do that? Actually, hatchless directly transform infertile eggs to poultry meats in a process that actually get out the animal or growing the chickens through the broiler. And with that, we not only remove that high density farming for meat, we just use eggs and egg layers to produce meat that is very natural, so to say, and we don't use any sort of other things in that. Where we do that, actually, that's an interesting part that AI come to the play, and also robotic and mechanobiology. We grow our meat in we call it production unit that I can give you examples like as a planter, like as you grow a plant. And in that, we use robotic AI to really visualize what the state of growth of tissues, and then what are the problems, and what are the problems, and then was the time for harvest of the meat. And I put some image visualization for you, but the idea is that we go exactly the same way as hydroponic farming. You have your box of the meat that's growing, and then you just grow them in a industrial way with all those technologies that utilize in a hydroponic farming, but differently for us. So to say, with that, hatchless actually keep and incentivize farmers in value chain. One of the most important things. We don't say they're going out, but we increase efficiency. We don't use antibiotic or no contagious avian disease, no growth factor hormones, non-GMOs at all. We don't use that sort of thing. And we know that our process and our inputs are already scaled. Egg industry is a very scaled, well-performed system. And we can offer no-kill ground chicken now at $4 per pound. This is the exact things that we grow currently, and this is our grower, the first prototype. Here you can see how the tissue look like inside, and after harvest, how it look like. It's not a structured, but it looks like a ground chicken. And we already tasted, and also expert reviewer tasted, and a taste, as you can read, hatchless taste surpass any marketed alternative chicken. And I believe because it's 100% chicken. That's the reason. No hybridization, no plant-based, nothing, just chicken. And what is the benefit? The other benefit is that I believe that's about the sustainability. Hatchless can have carbon emission emission of the poultry industry. And what it means, if we replace the ground chicken production of hatchless in United States with the hatchless technology, not all, just ground chicken, which is 10% of total, we can actually save around 21 billion kilograms of carbon, and it's equivalent to 4,600,000 cars on the road per year, which is a massive number. And with that, I have to say that chicken is just only a start. We can go for other meats, but focus on it. Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much, Wahid. Now, next will be Helen Ivan from Switzerland joining us, making her pitch about her startup company, Digisoil. If you have any questions, we'll do that after Helen. For these two panelists, and then the other questions, we do that at the end. And if the ones online, they can type them into the chat and we'll answer them then. Thank you. Go ahead, Helen.
Hi, Marcus. Wait, I'm just trying to share the right screen. This, and now go here.
That's it. That's it.
Right. Ah, no, that's not the right one. Sorry. Yes. Sorry, it needs a bit of time to load. Can you hear me well?
Yes, we can hear you very well.
Thank you. Then thank you a lot for welcoming here, welcoming me into your event, even if I'm actually based right now in Switzerland. I'm very happy to be almost with you. So I'm Helen Ivan. I also studied at ETH Zurich, and together with my two co-founders, Sonia and Jasmine, I co-founded Digisoil. We all have past leadership experience, and we are now 6 employees. And we actually funded the company in 2021 for selling already our product to researchers, but we've always wanted to help farmers to make farming, sustainable farming, an attractive choice for them. So let me tell you why. Well, given the increasing population, decreasing arable land, and this environmental challenge caused by fertilizer use inefficiencies, so that is about, for instance, that emit about 4% of the global greenhouse gases, we crucially need a solution. And actually, farmers too face a costly challenge because this fertilizer use inefficiency caused them to lose up to 1,000 Swiss francs per hectare. So per year on an average Swiss farm, I know it's much smaller than the American farm, it represents about 20,000 Swiss francs. So they need to find a solution too. And actually, the problem they have is that fertilizer availability to crop is really complex and not very well predictable. So why isn't it predictable? Because it's actually dependent on different parameters, on weather, but also on the potential of the soil to mineralize those nutrients, so to make them available to the crop. And that's where we come in with our solution. Our solution allows farmers to go on the field with an app-guided sampling process. Then they collect the right sample, they can directly analyze them with our device and consumables that we, by the way, developed and patented. And these data, we combine them with additional data like weather data, other soil data, and management data for finally providing farmers with a smart scheduling tool for them to know when to apply fertilizers and in what amount. And ideally in the future also much more like what type of fertilizers. Right, nope, too fast. Well, so our plan now is to start with just going to farmers and making our offer tailored to big farm companies. Then, of course, we want to be able to scale. And for scaling, we actually already have right partners that are retailers that already serve multiple farmers. And ideally, we would also like to find other big food and beverage companies. And then, of course, we also want to use the network of farm advisors so that we can serve multiple farmers at the same time and scale faster. Again, too fast. Yeah, so we already have an idea of a pricing model with a freemium app to lower the entry barrier. Then a starter kit where farmers can bring us their soil directly to us, and then because they will like it, then they can either lease or buy, depending on their preferences and size. So it's not only attractive for farmers, it's actually a very attractive market. We want to start in Europe, but of course, we can expand to the world with our solution. And this would be a total available market of 7.4 billion, and it will increase with at a rate of 13%. So the unique advantage we have is that with our technology, we can tell farmer what the soil provides to the plant, not only today, but all along the growing season, because we provide a rate of a quantification of how much nutrient get available to the plant per time. And we also make it in a very accessible way for farmers to use. So we don't give them a value they cannot understand. We will give them a value that they can actually act on it. So as I told you, we started in 2021 at a small startup with doing some revenues with our device. But then there is like 3 things you need to remember from this pitch. Is that first, we actually already pivot by switching from a product where people were bringing their soil, and we were measuring to a product where people can actually measure themselves. Then we also could build a great team. And finally, we could also partner with industrial partners and retailers. On the top of that, we also benefit of a great R&D network, since we are part of a lot of cooperation, scientific cooperation. And right now, we actually look for funding 900,000 Swiss francs. We already actually have just very recently got a soft commitment of an investor. But if you want to compete with them, feel free to contact me. And thank you a lot for your attention, and I will be very happy to get your question later and to discuss with you.
Thank you very much, Helen. Thank you so much. Very interesting. Now I want to ask whether anybody has questions for our first panelist about touchless. Dr. Wahid Hosseini. Does anybody have questions here? Yes, John?
Okay.
So let me repeat the question. So I understand the concept of linking an egg to a chicken without going through the traditional intermediary steps.
Yep.
But how do you get to other types of meat for non-egg-bearing, or, well, non-hard-shell egg-bearing animals? Maybe I answer my own question.
Yeah, that's a good question. Actually, we have already some evidence. We're growing actually other animals, mammals, on our egg-type growth media. And we see that they're growing. But they have to optimize. That's why I'm saying that we can go for instance, cow or beef. But instead of using just egg of the chickens, that's actually perhaps happening. I cannot guarantee it because it's in development. And the other type of any egg layer actually can utilize their egg for production. And we can go for red meat, for instance, ostrich is an example of red meat animal that have eggs, but we can grow ostrich cells on even chicken cells that is more efficient, and we already scale. That's the beauty. We can combine them. We are really don't restricted to just using chicken for chicken or ostrich for ostrich. It's can be really transformative in that sense that we can use chicken egg for all avians actually can grow well on chicken egg.
Anybody else? Thank you very much, Wahid. Now, does anybody has any questions for Helen? Okay, then I do. Helen, I would like to know, you talked about the soil sampling process. How do you do that? I mean, in Switzerland, I know the farms are, much smaller than here. And so, like, if we would want to do that on a farm with 3,000 acres in Kansas, how would you do that? How often, like per hectare or per acre, how many samples do we have to take, and how is that handled? And is that even possible, or is that done by machine or by people walking up through the field? Or?
Thank you so much, Marcus, for your question. It's actually a very, very good question, because it's actually it's a process in development. Because for now we measure about 4 samples per hectare,
Okay.
But we already made partnership with other companies that use satellite imageries to make heterogeneity mapping of the field, so to reduce the number of samples that need to be done per hectare. So we were in a huge farm in Greece, and we that was about 200 hectares, and we reduced the measurement only to 17. 17 measurements. So it really has a huge potential. And on the side, we actually in-house start the development of an automated sampler that would have even much more a lot of advantages for farmers and for farmer associations. But one of them would be that it would really be much more efficient for them to go in the field and collect samples, even if it's to send the soil to laboratories and, for instance, measure the soil carbon. Okay. But it will also be then something that they can use for measuring with our device.
Okay, excellent. Thank you very much. Now, Matt has some questions from the online audience.
Yes, so thank you to Matilda for asking questions for ULN. Is there a plan to use the technology not only for fertilizer optimization, but also for precision delivery of pesticides and other harmful chemicals in farming?
Thank you a lot for your question. Well, yes, pesticides is also a big topic on the farm, and by focusing only on fertilizer, we actually not focus on the whole issues and burdens of farmers. So it's definitely our vision to not only stay to remain focused on fertilizer, but also expand on pesticides. And we actually already have partners that would allow us to expand to that part of farmers' life too. But our device itself is not the one as it is now is not applicable to pesticides.
Okay, thank you.
Did I answer your question?
Yeah, it's thank you.
Hi there, thanks for the presentation. Curious, looking further ahead, could it also analyze or advise the type of crops that you should plant? Because obviously there's a whole array. Is there a certain type of crops that are more advantageous to utilize this than others?
Yes. So actually we focus right now on 3 types of crops, on maize, because maize, actually the more you apply fertilizer, the more it can grow much, always more. Then you have wheat, where quality is quite important, and vegetables, where you have a lot of actually inputs applied. So it's very important for farmers to first reduce the cost and also to get a good yield.
Just a quick side note, when Helen said, when she referred to maize, that for the
corn.
Americans that means corn. Okay.
I did not adapt.
Any other questions?
Thanks a lot.
Do you have any other questions online? Okay, then. Oh, okay. Sorry. Yeah.
Thank you. Yeah, thank you so much for your presentation. So I was just a bit curious whether you finding any way to reduce cost by incorporating drones in terms of getting some data around your farms instead of using satellite imageries. It can be much more cost efficient and detailed. Thank you.
Oh, thanks a lot for your remark. It's very interesting. Definitely, drones can also replace satellites, but on I think they have a lot of potential, especially for small scale farm, definitely, where satellites cannot provide as good data. But then we see it as a bigger cost than satellite imageries. But perhaps you have another view on that.
Thank you. Okay.
Hello, this question is for Bahid.
Oh, yeah.
From a regulatory point of view, and do you have to go through special regulatory procedures with USDA since it's meat, and FDA for labeling purposes of the product you're developing?
Yes, I'm currently in communication with USDA because first of all is a USDA, although we use USDA grade eggs and everything as input, but I'm in communication. They call it a kind of novel product and they're gonna really assess this. I'm not sure what the data, but we have to go through that for sure. And finally the labeling, I believe it's gonna be a labeling of the like as poultries and it's a USDA thing. I don't see that it's going to FDA, although we have a panel for FDA, if you know the cultivated meat. If they just think that this is a cultivated meat again, maybe we have to go through the other way. But since we just use a natural input, not a GMO cell, not growth factor, none of those sort of things, maybe just USDA confirm that they can handle this regulation. That's my understanding as of now.
Thank you, Wahid.
You're welcome.
Here we have another question.
Yes, this is regarding, I think, the hatchless egg, something like that. The first part of the question would be, wouldn't that kind of be lab made? I previously took a plant science, it was the sustainable agriculture class. And one of the critical issues would be, isn't there kind of question about the sustainability with like a lab produced egg, if that's what that's supposed to mean, hatchless eggs?
We don't use lab-produced egg. Still, we are using natural native eggs because the number of nutrients and all those ingredients that exist in natural eggs that support the growth of the meat. And actually what's happening is that the initial idea is that egg has everything to grow full living chicks without anything, just without feeding. You just put in the right environment and it's go. But a chicken or chicks has feeder, beaks, bones, whatsoever. We just try to transform this pass and grow meat, not anything. Actually, this is quite resembling that what Winston Churchill says, that what about just growing the things that we're going to eat, not the rest of the, chicken. And that's a beauty of thing. Otherwise, we don't really have a hacking part. As I'm saying, the miracle is a natural egg. No lab-grown egg is going to use this process.
When you say growing meat, to follow up with that question, before I move on to my next question, what do you mean like by you grow meat? Don't you mean like, do you mean like, for the meat part, do you mean like, what do you call it? Like lab-grown meat, or is it like livestock?
No, it's actually actual live meat or muscle tissue. If I'm considering scientific explanation, is a muscle tissue that we usually use as a meat of animal. We have different sorts of tissue, and we grow that specific tissue only. And how we can do that, I can explain it. We just take embryonic muscle cells, stem cells, and grow that part. We just go through the embryonic differentiation further and just choose that lineage to grow the muscles and not go for brains or whatsoever. And a kind of unconscious chicken. That's the only thing that's happening in our process.
Okay,
You're
thank
welcome.
you. Thank you, Wahid. Thank you. For more questions, we're going to do that at the end. Now we're going to start with the panel. So I'm going to give the word to Peter now. Thank you very much.
Thanks, Marcus. I'm Peter Kilduff. I'm the Associate Dean in the Don B. Huntley College of Agriculture. So thanks, everybody, for joining us today. I'd like to introduce our three panelists from CalPoly Pomona. In this event last year, we had some agronomists and plant scientists, but today we have an aerospace engineer, a computer scientist, and a mechanical engineer, but we are talking about agriculture. So let me just briefly introduce everybody, and then I'll ask them to give you an introduction to their work. On your far right, on the end of our panel, is Dr. Subodh Bhandari. He is professor and department chair in our aerospace engineering department. Next to him is Dr. Amar Rahija, who is professor and associate department chair in our computer sciences department in the College of Science. And then closest to me here is my colleague, Dr. Eshwar Ravishankar, who is an assistant professor in the plant science department. So, Subodh, I'd like to give each of them a couple of minutes to introduce their work to you, and then we'll go to the panel questions. Subodh.
Thank you. Thank you for the introduction. And I'm, as Peter said, I'm chair and professor and chair of the Aerospace Engineering Department and director of the Unmanned Aerial Vehicles Lab, or the Drones Lab. So what we are doing, my primary research area is making the drones more autonomous, and like the driverless cars. And in collaboration with plant science and computer science department and other disciplines, we are also working on precision farming using the drones and the ground robots. For precision farming, we are working on remote sensing, machine learning techniques from the drone, AI-powered drone to collect data, process the data, and then determine plant health, or it can be plant diseases, detecting weeds, for example. And then our eventual goal is to detect the plant health, plant health, and from the drones, send that information to for example, the ground robots, so where they can apply precision application, precisely, whatever amount is needed, instead of applying the same amount throughout the farm, apply the amount that is needed for that particular area. That is called the site-specific application of or input management. And so the idea is, drones or like other ground robots detect the weed, for example, or determine the plant health, like nitrogen deficiency, water deficiency, and then send that information to other drones, or like the ground robots, and then they do the application of precise application of this whatever input is needed. Like it can be pesticides, it can be nitrogen fertilizer, and so that's what we are doing. Remote sensing and machine learning, including both drones and ground robots.
Thanks, Subodh. Amma.
Thanks. Thank you, Peter. Working? Yeah, that's great. Thank you. I'm a Raheja in computer science. My primary research area is computer vision, machine learning, some of these AI techniques. I've been using them, for the last 15 years, primarily in interdisciplinary fields, so precision agriculture, as Subodh just mentioned. So we've been working together in terms of developing data models, using the drone data that we get to determine the crop health. Also using, the ground truth data, which is what creates the actual model, right, with the supervised learning. I've also applied machine learning to other fields, especially biomedical applications. Another interesting area that I'm trying to look at is also the bias that we have in AI, which is a lot of times ignored. And I think the same problem exists in agriculture as well. And that's something that has to be looked into because your model is only as good as your data, right? So if your data is not balanced, you will get biased decisions, right? So that's another very important aspect in AI that a lot of people are working on, so that's another area of interest. So I'm trying to focus in general on computer vision as the primary tool in AI. Thank you.
Thanks, Sama. Eshwa.
Yeah. Thank you, Peter. Good morning, everyone here in California, and good evening to everyone in Switzerland. Thank you for taking your time to join in this discussion. As Peter rightfully pointed, I'm a mechanical engineer by background, and it's sort of an interesting story how I got into agriculture. So I'll probably touch upon that, and in a way it touches upon my expertise. So I started my graduate school here in North Carolina around 2016, early 2017. And at that time, my main focus was on sustainable energy. And I wanted to do a project which had a lot of applied implications in solar energy, right? And which is where I was lucky enough to be part of a project where we were trying to trial a new type of solar system for greenhouses and controlled environment agriculture, right? So before I knew it, I was part of this very talented interdisciplinary team, which had physicists, chemists, plant biologists, and I was sort of this only engineer. And I started working in Phytotron, which is this building full of controlled environment growth chambers, working to engineer growing systems where we can monitor crop growth, right? And before I know it, I was so hooked by looking at all the data that showed me how crops were growing in different combinations of light, temperature, carbon dioxide, which is in a lot of ways right now being driven by machine learning and artificial intelligence, right? So fast track from there, after a couple of years as a postdoc in horticulture, where I kind of spent some more time in controlled environments. I was lucky enough to be hired by CalPoly here in plant science. And so my background is quite interesting. So sort of being this engineer who knew nothing about plants, now I'm sort of at this forefront of driving technology in agriculture. Right,
So thanks, Eshwa. So let's get to our panel discussion. So I've got a series of prompts to share with them. So first of all, how extensive currently is the use of artificial intelligence and robotics in agriculture? So maybe let me start by asking Amma to kick us off on that one.
So yes, definitely in terms of a lot of research is going on right now in trying to develop both AI-based software that is being used in farming decisions, as well as AI-based robots, right? So those are the two major areas that I see of AI being used in agriculture, because one is, we have industrial robots already, right? Combines that do the harvesting and so on, but they don't have much AI, right? So we are, I think, heading towards, might be, having AI robots looking at, weeds, removing them, and applying pesticides at a particular location. And then, of course, determining disease, crop health by collecting data on a regular basis from various farms, and then, of course, using machine learning models to make decisions, right? That's the software-based AI. So these are the two primary things that I see as AI, getting into agriculture. Now, how much of it is currently being used by farmers, I'm not so sure, but definitely a lot of research is going on to develop these systems that will probably be used in the next, 20 to 30 years.
Thanks, Sama. Subodh.
As Amar said, it's a growing field. We have seen a lot of AI-powered robots. Some of us know that the robots have been used for plantation. But recently, recent development, according to one data source, last year the use of AI-powered robots doubled than the previous years, and currently it is at like 8 to 10 billion market globally, and then maybe like in 26 it could be like 30 billion dollar market. And what we are seeing, the AI-powered drones increased use for like weeding, like as Amar said, they have like, there are some robots that can like precisely identify even tiny weeds and shoot laser at them, so that is one. And then like the AI-powered like these robots determining where the fruit is, in a fruit tree, determining, the how ripe or whether that fruit is ready to be harvested and picking them, So that is the kind of application. So the plantation, weeding, then like harvesting, AI-powered robots, artificial intelligence combined with these robots, that has been actually growing, and we will see increased use of that in future.
So are drones, are drones like the most widespread use of this kind of technology on farms at the moment? Is that the low-hanging fruit to?
So like, that was interesting. There is one robot, it's just like, coming to the market. So it has a, ground robot, but then from there, there are like the tiny flying robots that can go and pick fruits,
Right.
From that platform, ground robot platform, they fly and pick the robots, identify which one is ready to be picked, Yeah.
Right.
But the drones we'll probably talk about later. So what the drones can do is like, they can provide the aerial view, and then, because the ground robots can see only like, small area at a time. So drones can provide from the, higher, high above, and they can provide large coverage in a short amount of time. And then that can be shared with the ground robots, which we'll talk about later, I think.
Okay. Thanks. So does Helene, Vahid, or Eshwar like to comment on that? The current extent of use of AI and robotics. Do you want to add any comments there?
Actually, you guys all plants, but I'm the only animal here. I have to say that I see actually the application of both robotic AI and animal agriculture, particularly poultry and egg, for instance. And also, I have a privilege to come with a company that can vaccinate up to 100,000 of the chicks, for instance, just detect the gender, vaccinate with 3D eyes, and use all those decision making and then AIs and robotic at a very fast pace. That's really advanced thing that I'm seeing in the market. From my point of view, in hatchless, we're gonna extensively use both robotic and AI in future. My company is the earliest stage. We are working, for instance, on smart noses that from gas, we detect the state of the maturity of tissues or meat. And that, based on the data, we detect what kind of decision you have to make. Is it a good one, or a trash one, or is it ripe or ready to go? And then from the point of how our farm work is like as a warehouse, very much like Amazon warehouse, that these chickens, box or containers reside on shelves randomly, and they just robots going to harvest and pick those and use the maximum efficiency to put them together. That's really, I see that the future of this in animal, food, and an AgriTech is very huge, both AI and robotic at the moment.
Okay, thanks, Vahid.
Yeah, so I guess from my side, this being sort of the first question in this panel, just to kind of clarify for all our listeners today, what we really mean by AI, right? So to me, it's the use of computer science and data to help machines make decisions that we can use for various processes And that's where agriculture is currently benefiting from, right? So in terms of how extensive the technology is, I just want to touch upon that real quick here. I would still say it's very much in its nascent stages. And the reason I'm saying that is, if you look at the rate of increase of revenue in agriculture, it's about 5% worldwide every year, right? Right now, there is a lot of investment happening in AI, which means a lot of R&D is still happening, and that makes this a nascent technology, right? So currently, in a 13 trillion economy in agriculture, AI is probably $1 billion right now, right? But it can grow to 10 billion in the next 7 to 8 years, right? So it's going to grow by 25% every year also. And the major chunk of that is being driven by machine learning, like Amar here mentioned and Subodh mentioned. And that machine learning technique will probably drive your sensors, your cameras, your monitoring systems, and processing capabilities, right? A lot of the big players right now are really your tech giants, right? So IBM is investing in AI. They are building their own forecasting, prediction tools. Microsoft is sort of focusing on the open source data collection and making it available for different growers. Robotics, John Deere, a very popular agriculture machinery company, they are focusing on a lot of your autonomous harvesters, right? So I would say AI is very much in its nascent stage, but a lot of emphasis right now is on machine learning, computer vision, and precision farming, right? So,
Okay, thanks, Ashwa.
I would have a very short things to add on that. All what has been said was very interesting. But so, digital is mostly in the field of support for decision making. And what I see AI there as a big advantage for making the decision more accurate. So what you need to really have in mind is that for farmers, one of the problems with adopting new technologies is the fear of losing the yield, the fear of having invested so much energy and cost and then getting a wrong input, a wrong advice. And there AI has a really huge potential in helping to take out all the knowledge that is already there. So it can be vision, but it can also be just like other data, like weather data or soil data, and use existing models and help to make all these prediction more robust and more adaptable to different location and different time. So that's where I would see, but it's really, it's really specific to our field in the company.
Thanks, Helene. Okay, then let me ask each of you, what do you consider to be the most exciting developments in your respective areas? So Helene, maybe I'll go back to you. What do you think is the most exciting thing you see in your field in terms of emerging technologies?
Well, in my field is well, that's a good question. There are a lot of exciting things. I think what is exciting is to be part of this the technology development and to have the power to take all these data, like what we measure is soil enzymatic activity, is like actually not usable for farmers at all, but it's really crucial in the process. It's there, and to make this data actually usable by them and make it actionable, and I think this is really great. And I mean, related to AI, I think AI helped a lot in the process of interpreting those data.
Thanks, Helene. Subodh.
Yeah, so in my area, I'm working on drones and ground robots. So the most exciting thing happening in our area for precision farming is use of ability to use drones and ground robots, compared to a few years back, now we have like more processing power available. That can be onboard processing. That, like for example, the NVIDIA and other companies, the hardware they are developing, as well as the sensor size has gone down significantly. So the small drones can carry very good sensor. So with that, we have been able to do or there is a possibility to do real-time data analysis, real-time data processing, and then getting the information for precision farming right there while flying, or like when the ground robot is operating, instead of getting the data later and doing the post-processing, and that can delay the things. But now with this availability and then sensor size reduction, the processing power, that is going to help going to be helpful for the decision support system for input management.
Thanks, Subodh. Amma.
So if I was just to talk about my specific, AI in general, I think generative AI is kind of the next forefront in terms of, machine learning. So as you already know, like with ChatGPT or things like that, you could imagine the farmer just sitting there and, asking questions about what should I do in terms of, increasing the yield given the current conditions of my farm, right? Again, so based on the available trained data, the large language models can, of course, produce an answer for this precision farming. So in general, of course, generative AI is kind of the next, most interesting development, but also a little bit scary in terms of, regulatory aspects and ethical aspects.
Thanks, Anna. Vahid.
I already give you an example, a specific example of a company that really doing apply all of those, just processing 100,000 of chicks in a field. This is a real things that happening right now, and I'm seeing in animal agriculture also. There are many other actually AI companies, but one of those actually catching my eye is that fenceless, system that guide the animals, in that case cows, in a field. In future, you don't need to fence them. You can guide them, cows, just by prompting them through the kind of neglect-like structure. That's really catching my eyes, that how in future you don't need cowboys, you just asking and some software communicate, and then based on the prompt that receiving by neglect, they can guide the animals and show where they are. To me, it was amazing to see that as of today. But the future, I've seen much more things coming soon.
Thanks, Vahid. Ishwa.
I think to me the most exciting, and there's quite a few, but something that really ranks on the top of my mind is the ability of AI to sort of infiltrate and permeate into the smartphone industry, right? So for a lot of us, even for the growers in remote locations today, most of us have smartphones, and you can have simple applications that make use of your cell phone's camera to process images from your farm and check for diseases, right? So that sort of an image analysis has really been simplified extensively, that nearly 7 to 10 million farmers on a daily basis use their cell phones to check their crops for diseases, right? So that to me is like one of the most exciting advancements that AI has brought about, right? And it has a lot to do with computer vision. The next thing, and this is related to controlled environments in particular, is semi-autonomous growing. A major difference in controlled environments is the cost of energy, right? The cost of energy is extensive. You require a lot of heating, air conditioning, depending on location. To cap it all, you also need electrical lighting, right? And so one of the ways companies have tried to offset the cost of energy is by cutting back on labor. Pros and cons to that, we might get into that later. But AI has sort of let you continuously monitor crops. It has reduced the need for human intervention, right? And in a way, it has helped companies pull back on the cost of labor. So I would say these are some of the most exciting advancements that I can see. Yeah.
Okay, thanks, Eshwar. So what do you see as being the biggest challenges influencing the adoption of these new technologies? So Vahid, let's start with you. What do you see as the biggest challenges facing the adoption of these technologies?
Actually, the data and then actually all people. Actually, that's the most important thing. Education. I believe that what I face in either case my company or similar high-tech companies that there is a resistance in and wide usage of this in many states, rural area, because this is a new, and I believe that that's because of education. We need really to advocate and teach in a different community that they are not endangering your job, because people really thinking that AI coming to them to really catch their job and they getting out of work and then poor. But we have to really teach how in future, instead of working 6 days, 7 days, you can still have the same income or higher income, but working 3 days a week. And this is actually, I see that we have to change the mindset of people that are already implanted, and then that's going to be a difficult thing. And we have to work on it through the institute, like the universities, and all other media that we do have.
So really about skills and mindsets.
Yeah. Because if the mindset is not there, they're going to push back. I see, for instance, just for this type of meat, how, I don't know if you hear the news media, some state already banning a food not existing, cultivated meat, without knowing that what exactly happening. Just, making a fence. It's not good that people trying to fence to new technology, and that's actually killing a technology if there are people not using that. And this needs really a lot of work from the insiders and educational institute to really go for that. Typically, we have our insiders knowing this pretty much okay, but we are not really in the field outside. You have to go work side by side to the farmer in a middle of U.S. to see what are they feeling, what are the response. Just not really just happening all thing here. That's very important aspect.
Okay, thanks, Vahid. Amma, biggest challenges for adoption?
I think there's challenges in many different fields. So to start with, of course, agriculture education for the farmer, right? How aware is the farmer of this new AI technology that is being employed on the farm? First of all, can the farmer afford the AI technology, right? So there's a fear that there might be a digital divide between small farmers and bigger scale farmers, right? Secondly, the skill set required on the farm will change a lot, right? So you don't have, might be as much labor needed, but it might shift in the sense that you might need labor to maintain a very different kind of equipment, right? So if you have AI-based robots now, it's not your simple industrial combines that are just running, or being run by the farmer, right? So the farmer might even feel a little bit more distance from the technology unless they're really trained, and allowed to actually play with that technology, right? So these are some of the challenges I feel that have to be overcome for, an open adoption, from that practical aspect on the farm.
Thanks, Amma. Subodh.
Yeah, I agree with what Wahid and Amar said, both the cost and education, so the cost is like AI-powered robots or robots in general, like the robot I was talking about, the robotic weeding, that costs like maybe $1.2 million, So for large farms that are of sizes like more than 1,500 or 2,000 acres, that may be possible, but majority of the farms in the world are like small and medium-sized, So like the robots generally cost, most of the robots available in the market cost $500,000 to $1.5 million. So that upfront cost, to acquire them and use them, so that may be a cost prohibitive for many farmers. So the main thing to make them widely adopted is reducing the cost. And so that's where the drones and the type of project we are doing, collaboration between the drones and the ground robots, but these are small robots, instead of very large robots. So the large robots, another disadvantage is they are good, what they are doing, like they can help with labor shortage we have. For example, California is, or 56% of California's growers cannot find enough laborers. So the robots are helpful to overcome that shortage, but then also these large robots also cause soil compaction. So what we are proposing is use small robots. But then these small robots may not be like sufficient. One of them, cannot cover very large areas. So what we are focusing on is multiple drones and multiple ground robots, So the drones fly, collect the data in a short amount of time of an wide area, share the information, keep sharing the information with all the ground robots in the network. So there has to be in-farm connectivity, like Internet of Things kind of thing. And then, they do like their whatever precise application, weeding, and that kind of thing. So the challenge is, I think, both education, that's going to be like, they have to be made aware of the technology and they have to be ready to adopt, So there is like, education is going to be important, and then to make it widely adopted, I think cost reduction is a major factor.
Thanks, both. Helen, would you like to comment on the challenges of adoption?
Sure. Actually, I really agree with the cost reduction arguments. It's really important. Also, being here in Switzerland, the size of the farms are much smaller. So what we need to achieve is to be able to manufacture the technology, to produce it at a cost and sell it at a cost that is much lower than the value we actually provide to farmers. So here's the thing, like one of the challenge is to really pick the right field of application where you can really provide a value that is high enough and be able to produce a technology cheap enough. That being said, I would also add another challenge, which is on the data collection, because you must know AI to build AI model, build AI, you need a lot of data. And in agriculture, I speak here about like really the crop fields, you really constrained by biological and physical boundaries, which are the crop growth. So to collect enough data, you actually need to wait that your crop grows, and that is not done in one day. So it's not. Perhaps Vahid would have, I don't know how, but or let's say a robot would be much more fast at collecting data, because in one day you could make 100 iteration and collect 100 data. When you need to collect data of the field and plants growth, if you don't have already available data, it just costs a lot and costs time to actually collect those data.
Thanks, Helene. Ishwa.
Thank you, Peter. So to me, the biggest challenge would be, are we doing enough to localize artificial intelligence? So what do I mean by that? North America is the biggest market for AI right now. Europe is the fastest growing market, right? So in a way, there's a lot of R&D happening in countries in these regions, right? And so a lot of the data and the supporting documentation that's coming out is going to be in English or any of the European languages, right? So are we doing enough to make this adoptable by farmers in a lot of the other developing countries, right? So in a way, AI has a responsibility not just to bridge the gap between big farms, companies, and small farms, but also between developed and developing countries, right? And I think that's a challenge that we need to overcome. And I think that's one of the major bottlenecks right now.
Thanks, Ishwa. In fact, I'd like to share an anecdote myself. My background is actually the textiles and clothing, the global textile and clothing industries. When I was a new professor at the University of Leeds in England back in 1990, we had a Japanese research organization visit with us. And they had spent billions of yen in attempting to automate garment production. Because Japan didn't want to lose its garment industry to those low-cost offshore places, so they put a lot of innovation, a lot of dollars into introducing robotics and computers to assemble garments. And they came and gave us this presentation, and it was fabulous. The problems they solved, it was jaw-dropping. But at the end of the day, this automated garment factory was going to cost about the same amount as a petrochemicals complex. And they were competing with low-cost, mass-produced garment production places at that time. They were in places like Korea, strangely enough, and Hong Kong and so on, and Taiwan. But although they had solved many technical challenges, at the end of the day, low capital businesses with access to low wage labor, they just couldn't trump that, the amount of investment required. And perhaps agriculture is different, but I think it's an interesting scenario. And also relating back to my own background in textiles and clothing, and hearing from what you're saying here, that often technologies are not about introducing this particular technology for this particular process. It's often require multiple parallel investments. If you're going to have drones, they've got to be linked maybe to an AI system, and they've got to be linked to a robot that will harvest the crop. So actually, this then even more greatly deepens the knowledge intensity of farming and the capital intensity, so thereby creating those barriers. So I don't know if you want to, if any of you want to comment on that before we move on. So okay. So another thing about emerging technologies is that they're pioneered by many different companies, and there's no clear industry standards, and it can lead to problems of integration. How do you see that as an issue? Is that an issue in the industry, that there's no clear standards and technologies? There's a challenge having different solutions communicate with each other, or is that not a problem? Subodh.
That can be a problem, but we have used variety of, the products from variety of manufacturers, and the standardization is definitely going to help, but there are some, but we haven't, that I don't think is a bigger problem. Right. Some industry, it is a big problem, for example, manned aviation industry, But for agricultural, the robots that we are using, that may not be a big barrier. My thinking, but the folks from industry can tell better. But yeah, we have used all kind of different from different countries, manufacturers and or the products from different companies. We haven't seen I mean that can be worked a lot of things are now open source also in robotics. Some are still closed source, but then being open source helps make development faster or adopt them faster. The open source software that come with the products.
Okay, thanks, Subodh. And anybody else want to comment?
Yeah, I just want to say, I definitely think that at some point, some regulatory issues need to be addressed, right? So of course, you will have a lot of companies developing a lot of AI robots and so on. So is there any testing that they have to go through to be adopted, right? You can obviously have accidents of robots going haywire on the field, destroying crops rather than helping, right? So, I mean, you see that in every industry. So at some point, through government agencies like the Department of Agriculture or whatever different countries have, I think it's a good idea to have some sort of, so that the farmer is confident that the robot or the technology that they're using is reliable, of course, given the education that has to be provided to the farmer. So I think these, even though we are more in R&D phase right now, not exactly, a phase where the technology is already being deployed, at a fast pace. So there will be definitely issues that need to be addressed in this area.
Okay, thanks, Emma. So in the interest of time, I'm going to bundle a couple of prompts together. Actually, Emma did mention earlier issues with regard to ethical concerns and potential for bias in AI. So how do you see ethical issues and also issues related, again, to something else you mentioned, data privacy and data security, that if we have these internet-enabled farming production systems, all machine-controlled, they may be subject to hacking and so on. So how do you see issues of ethics and data privacy and security? So Eshwar, let me start with you.
Yeah, so thanks, Peter. So I'll probably touch upon the ethical issues first, right? And the threat, and I'll probably just focus on labor. The threat to labor exists, right? Now, there are certain aspects of agriculture that's backbreaking, really tiresome. It can be stressful to the body, mentally, physically, and AI helps offset some of those labor, right? It helps offset those mindless labor under the baking sun. And now that's a good thing that we should look at. AI is going to definitely bring in a lot of skilled labor, right? So there's going to be more people in the market looking to hire graduates, right? So that's another niche that we are opening because of AI. Now, the issues, and this has not been studied properly so far, there needs to be more focus on this, is as more and more tech starts coming into agriculture, right? The way the government and the others are going to look at agriculture is going to change. Will we reach a stage where, your agriculture is going to look more like an IT industry, where there's just a lot of engineers and tech assistants sort of governing the operation, right? That may not be good, because then we are talking about a rural-urban divide, which is going to become smaller and smaller. Already there is a lot of migration happening towards the cities, right? So this might be something that we need to look at. It has to be looked at through policies, regulations. I think NGOs and political groups have a role to play here. Like, can they do something in their policies for future planning that can offset some of this from happening, right? So data security and privacy wise, I think one comment before I kind of pass the baton over. A lot of farms still struggle with having a secure network that a lot of this technology, sensors, cameras can use to share data, right? So a lot of the equipments will be unmanned, ungoverned in the fields, right? So there is the threat of physical stealth, apart from hacking and other sort of network-based issues as well, right? And again, this is something where we can look at encryption as an option to safeguard some of this data. The challenges there is encryption requires a lot of memories. A lot of your systems in the field are not going to have that memory to have sophisticated encryption, right? So how can we sort of technologically advance that would govern a lot of your privacy and security issues?
Thanks, Eshwar. Vahid?
I think that's a little bit covered that the employment gonna change. Actually, this happened in the last centuries. Combines coming and then replace 10 workers. And now we are seeing that this robot that actually control the combine is even one driver, you don't need that one even. And that's we cannot avoid, but I see regulatory and actually government actually has a quite big impact. How really put a wage and a laboring system of future humans. That's gonna happen. If you deploy a robot instead of human, then you can, for instance, decrease the labor hours or increase the wages. That really needs some sort of, a government intervention and regulatory intervention to that part to really compensate these things. And the end of these technologies that will leave healthier, easier, and happier. And we have to really think of a really larger ecosystem that how we gonna to utilize this. Not really making poor poorer and rich richer. And that's the second point, that this technology, as mentioned, should really help small farmers, not really big corporate and big farmers, because they're already actually killing the small farmers right now. It's happening. And if you see the statistic, number of small farmer in any chicken, fruits, whatsoever is decreasing over time, but the large corporate farmers are increasing. They are disappearing. But in expense of the poorness is something that is unethical to me, and government should support this with putting right regulation, how pricing and taxing, and that's the tools actually they have. That's an important thing we need to cover in all sorts of new technologies, including AI, robotic, and agriculture.
Okay, thanks, Vahid. Amma.
So I think Ishwar already mentioned a lot of things. I just wanted to add a few things. I think in terms of ethics, I think we need to think about the ethics of how the data is being collected from the farms. How is it being analyzed? And where does the farmer come in, right? If we are all just thinking about a data-driven model for farming, correct? What is the role of the farmer in the whole thing? So the farmer might just feel marginalized if all we're doing is using AI-based robots to do all the farming and AI software to do all the decision-making, right? It's because AI, of course, is the models are trained and they learn a certain pattern, right? In this case, we just talk about the yield or whatever, right? So where is the knowledge of the farmer being used? I think that's in this big picture that has to be kept in mind. So the farmer is always involved with the farming process. And that's the fear that we might just exclude the farmer, right? So that's another ethical aspect, not just the skill set that is needed to be on the farm is shifting a lot as well, right? It's not from just laborers doing manual labor, to a more skilled labor set, right? So that's definitely there's going to be some reduction in the labor required, but to a different skill set as well. So these are some ethical issues that we got to keep in mind. And of course, in terms of security, just wanted to say that I think there's enough research being done in cybersecurity that can be utilized for protecting the data coming from farms, just like it's being used for all other industries. So that's not so much of a concern, right? I mean, yes, if the farms are hacked, it's as bad as anything else being hacked.
Right. Okay. Well, perhaps we stop our prompts there and take questions from the audience. We have some questions from the chat or from our audience in the room.
Thank you everybody. Very nice discussion, learned a lot of things. About sustainability and energy conservation and all that we were talking about, are we considering manufacturing of so many drones and robots and batteries required for those, and how the disposal of those batteries will happen? What is the overall equation of actual whole operation? Is there any research on that, or some studies have been happening in that aspect? So just one.
Yeah, we haven't. Oh, that's a good question. Battery disposal, and so a lot of the batteries we are using are lithium ion, and they last for a long time. But we haven't particularly looked at that. But we are actually now, because as I mentioned, the cost of adopting these systems is very high from the commercially available systems, and what we are doing is now going towards because we have this for agricultural precision farming applications, so we are expertise in-house, on campus. We have plant science, collaboration between plant science, computer science, and many engineering disciplines, not just the aerospace engineering, but we can tap into the expertise we have in electrical and computer engineering and mechanical engineering. Ishwar is already mechanical engineer, so we are trying to develop our own systems, with a goal to reduce the cost, and then also maybe, with that, because we have so much expertise, and then the technology transfer, so for wider adoption by small and medium-sized farmers.
Thank you.
Yeah. So the batteries, yeah, that's a good question. So we'll, what we are doing with the batteries, we just dispose them, to be honest, the ones that are not working anymore, but that needs to be, thought about, similar to plastic. Yeah, that's good.
Just wanted to add quickly that there is a big discussion going on as to how much energy is consumed in training these large language models, these AI, right? So nobody's talking about that. Yes, all of these AI models that are being trained, especially you're talking about ChatGPT and so on, there's a lot of energy being consumed, right? And that's, of course, a big concern. One hopes there will be energy breakthrough, with renewable energy and so on that will reduce this, but you do have a valid point. There is a lot of resources that are being consumed, and there are studies out there that, they do talk about, what's the balance between what you're getting in the output in the end versus what you're finally putting in.
I just want to first off thank all the speakers for being here, especially if anyone tuning in from Switzerland. So I just wanted to ask about, the non-GMO eggs. Why non-GMO over GMO? There's a lot of misunderstanding about GMOs, but I don't think GMO, but I also seen, there are some pros about GMO. Again,
actually, in the United States, there is no concern about GMO. GMO is going to be used, but in European countries in particular, GMO is a matter of concern. And why is that? Typically, when you modify genetically some organism, you change a molecular pathway of synthesis of some sort of protein and molecules. And it's not 100% well known what else this organism can be made. and these are safe for consumption or not. That's why European countries that are more conservative, they are, just saying no. But here in the United States, they are more open, are particularly going to check. It's not all GMOs is gonna be okay, but still open to GMO. But in overall, if we could manage that, produce something that through the natural breeding or a natural mechanism going through is much safer, because that black box existing in GMO is not well known. And when you don't know something, you're afraid of that. That's the only way I can explain.
So we have the last question coming from our online audience. It is from Helen. Are there any limitations with current cloud computing technologies for AI robotics in agriculture and agri-tech? Should I repeat the questions? Are there...
Sorry, is it for me?
Well, it's for the audience here, whoever wants to take it.
Oh, I see.
Do you want to take it, Helen?
Can you repeat, please?
So are there any limitations with current cloud computing technologies for AI and robotics in agri-tech?
Well, I'm not the software engineer here.
Okay, anybody else has an opinion?
I can give an opinion real quick. So I think the issue more than cloud computing itself is the space needed for storing some of this data. A lot of the data that we collect on the farms, depending on the size of the farm and how frequently we are collecting data, big data, it's going to take like the GBs and GBs of space, right? So a lot of the universities offer unlimited storage, right? But not a lot of the farmers don't get that, right? And I think that's one of the main challenges. Then the other challenge with cloud computing is you need good network, right? Now satellite communications can become expensive, right? So you do need a more feasible data, right? Oftentimes we do not have the Wi-Fi fast enough to make use of cloud computing to process, analyze, and give you decisions real time, right? So I feel like Microsoft Azure is kind of doing something to solve this. They are making use of what they call the TV white space, right? It's basically the unused frequencies on your TV, right? And on your televisions, right? So they make use of those frequencies, and they have a local system in your farm, which is called an edge system, that can make use of that network to collect data from the sensors and drones, and then they use it for computation, right? So that sort of hasn't become large scale yet. So this is my thought.
Thank you. Thank you.
I can say from my experience that we are trying to, use 5G technology to, if you collect the data and then go to lab and upload, so that is one thing. But we are trying to do from farm, while collecting the data to center, supercomputing center, to upload the data. And we were very happy with the 5G technology when we heard about it, Verizon, Minify, I think, So then we bought that, and we are trying to use, the marketed or the publicized rate was 150 Mbps, but then we got only hardly 5 or 10 Mbps, So that was not, so it will, cloud computing resources by themselves are there are so many, available, Amazon, Microsoft, and others. But to do the real time, we still have to, from the farm to, for real time processing. And that's what we're trying to do. What Ishwar said was, for for example, for fire detection and monitoring, we're trying to send, the fire data, for example, and real time get that processed and then send back to the user. And there is a challenge there.
Thank you. We have one last question over here.
Great discussion, everyone. My question is that everything with technology is, fine and dandy when it comes to implementing AI, cloud, robotics, and precision agriculture. What I think is a bigger issue is the carbon reduction. How are you guys looking at that as the genesis for everything in agriculture going forward? Because right now, that's the biggest polluter to the environment, and as well as the pesticides and all the chemicals that are being used in the soil. Because the soil actually right now is not even, I would say there's more erosion to the soil and less, conservation, and pretty much the farmers are used to what they have been doing for years and decades. So having information is great, but then the carbon reduction is where I think the bigger challenge is. And the other thing is, I read something, I'm in the bioplastic space, is that we have nanoplastics that are in our clouds now. It's not just in our water, in our food, in our everything that we consume, but it's in the clouds, it's in the oceans. So how is that all going to be solved with with all the information that we're gathering and taking some actionable steps on that? So thank you.
Yeah, I mean, I can start here. And I think the reason why AI really took off in agriculture is sustainable intensification, right? So the reason why agriculture is so full of carbon emissions or contributes to a lot of carbon emissions is, in a way, I would say, is because of the tilling process, right? So you do a lot of growers do deep tilling. The deep tilling releases the carbon in the soil, right? So a lot of your unmanned automated machineries can actually do shallow tilling, right? It significantly retains the carbon in the soil, right? So intelligent spraying of pesticides through UAVs, I think Subodh mentioned that, has significantly reduced the amount of fertilizer. So you have sort of stopped doing this blanket spraying of fertilizers in a 3,000-acre farm. Right now, you are more focused on maybe a quarter acre or 1 acre specifically to provide those fertilizers, right? A lot of your drip irrigation and targeted irrigation is happening through controllers, right, which is being driven by AI, right? So we are able to sort of like keep track of how much water your soil is retaining and make managing decisions accordingly. Beyond all this, I think AI has definitely shown proof of concept that it's reducing the losses for growers, right? So there was the study done by CGIAR, which is the Cooperative Group of International Ag Research, and they were able to help a group of Colombian rice growers in deciding when they should harvest rice or when they should start growing rice. And it was it was sort of like based off Landsat images of cloud cover, when they can expect rain, etc. Right? So in a way, AI has sort of offset this biggest threat or concern for growers, where they are sort of like blindly growing across every season. So now you can rely on some of these data to maybe not grow for a season, right? And in a way, that's the impact of climate change. That's the world that we are living in, and sort of AI is helping us tackle that. Yeah.
Okay. Thank you very much. And hold on, Helen, yes.
Sorry, I'm burning to answer this question, because we actually really are active. Like, it's our core vision and mission in my company Digital, to actually really help farmers to farm in a more environmentally friendly way, and yeah, of course, you can reduce a lot of emissions by optimizing all the farm's machinery process. What we do is really focusing on the emissions you can actually reduce from greenhouse gas, from fertilizer use. So fertilizer production already themselves are producing like they need fuel. So you produce a lot of greenhouse gas just by producing fertilizer. So if you apply far too much than what you actually need to apply for getting the same yield, you already will emit much more than what is actually needed. So that's one thing. Second thing, we need to bring more organic matter to the soil. And for one way of doing it is to just use organic fertilizer. Problem is with organic fertilizer, you actually faced with challenges of being accurate. It's really something complex to use for farmers. And for that, AI can really help to help farmers, like what we do, help farmers to know when to apply the fertilizer, their organic fertilizer. So to de-risk the use of the application of organic fertilizer. Yeah, so that I hope it gives you a valuable insight on that side.
If I can add a quick point, a really quick point, sorry, just a second. I think one place where AI can become a little bit more sustainable is a lot of the models, the way they're built, is they focus on monoculture, right? So they keep growing the same type of crops in the same piece of land year after year. That's how you collect data. Is that the sustainable way because it doesn't let enough time for your soil to replenish naturally, right? So is there a way where we could focus on some cross crops in between, right? So that's a place where we can definitely improve. Sorry.
Thank you very much. And I think we are at the end now. We want to have a little chance to network. So I want to thank all the panelists here and Helen in Switzerland very much for the participation and the very interesting interchange of ideas, questions, and answers. Thank you very much to Peter and CalPoly and the whole team here. And I'm going to give it to Matt to talk about the upcoming events, and then we will network. Thank you very much for coming.
So don't you worry, it's going to be super quick. So we're going to have next week actually a cross-chamber mixer up in LA with our friends from the UK, from Mexico, and France, I guess. So if audience here also online is interested to kind of enhance networks outside of the Swiss American community, please welcome and sign up for it. And our next opportunity meetup is about medtech, and life science. It's going to be on April 18th in Orange County. So if you're interested to explore growth opportunities in that sector, also follow us either on www.saccla.org or on LinkedIn. Having said that, thank you very much. Thank you, Peter and team, to having us here at CalPoly. Thanks, Marcus, for organizing this. And au biento, and goodbye, good evening, have a good night, Switzerland and all over the world, and goodbye here. Thank you.